Hi everyone, we're going to get started. Thank you for coming to the first speaker series of the semester and our first partnership with Career and Professional Success. So thanks for CAPS for partnering with us on this. And I just want to go briefly over the programming we have for this semester. This is, like I said, the first speaker series. We have two more coming up, March 5th and April 23rd. I have materials in the back of the room, including this postcard that talks about all of our programming, so feel free to grab one of those on your way out. And I'm going to do only minor introductions because I want them to really speak for themselves, but thanks for being here tonight. First, we have Brian Pappas. He's owner at Blind Pig Barber Company, and Samara Walker, or Sam Walker. She's a 2013 alum from CHHS and the CEO of Lust Cosmetics. And then our moderator is Trudy Van Zee, the Associate Vice Provost of CAPS. So thanks very much.
Thank you.
All right, so I prepared some slides, but I'm going to kind of talk directly to you guys because I'm better with kind of just voicing my opinion.
It's a good thing you are.
Sorry. All right. So the name of my business is Lust Vegan Cosmetics. Lust V Cosmetics stands for vegan. So I wanted to basically develop a beauty line that incorporated all kinds of people and represented diversity and inclusion. As we know in the beauty industry, there's a kind of a gap between luxury and healthy. It's kind of like if it's luxury, then it's like high-end, very fashion forward, but it doesn't incorporate your health. So now there's all these women, all these celebrities coming out with all these like healthy vegan lines tailored towards the fashion industry, but it really doesn't tailor towards all skin tones. And as being an African-American woman, my pigment is a little different. But then also being like fairly, if your skin tone is kind of pale, you want to have something that basically mixed with your skin tone as well. If you have a yellow undertone, a red undertone, so basically finding the middleman between how do we make all these products inclusive for everyone to shop the brand. So as seen in, so these are basically all the press features that I've had since I launched so I launched in 2016, and then I did a relaunch in May 2017. So the difference between the 2016 branding and the 2017 was the bottles. So when you start a business, your branding is everything. So even if someone doesn't know you, if they see something that captures the eye, is very, has high quality, then they're like, oh my God, I love this. This is perfect because I'm automatically attracted to this. So when I decided to rebrand, I wanted to make something that would capture the eye initially, and then people ask about the brand second. You don't want people to say like, oh, what is this? Tell me about it. You want to be like, oh my God, I love this. Then what is this? Tell me about it. So essence is kind of a major feature. Usually brands tend to not be featured in essence. It takes a long time to be featured in major issues like Vogue, Essence, Elle, Cosmopolitan. You have desk side interviews, which are basically you go to the corporations, you say, I want to meet with you. You're basically pitching your brand to get a feature inside of the magazine. They actually contacted me because I had a press/launch event. So at a launch event, you basically invite any beauty editors local beauty bloggers, potential investors, and this woman came to my event. She was actually a journalist. So she came to my event and she's a freelancer. So she writes for different magazines, but she doesn't work for Essence. I always give out goodie bags, and today I didn't bring any. I'm so sorry. I always give out goodie bags when I go places because you never know who you're gonna meet. Everyone kind of has on this face. You never know who is who. So it's important to always have respect for any and everyone, no matter where you go. So I gave out goodie bags. She got her nails done. She went to, one of her freelance opportunities at Essence, and someone was like, oh my God, I love your nails. Like, where did you get it done? And she was like, oh, I went to this press/launch event. And then the beauty editor was like, oh my God, I love it. I want to feature her. And that never, ever, ever happens because they're so overwhelmed with Neutrogena, Dior, Gucci, Rihanna's Fenty, all those popular brands. So this is just what Lust V Cosmetics is. It's a chip-resistant, long-lasting, gel-like formula I say gel-like because it doesn't have the same chemicals as a gel product. So one of the chemicals that are in gel is formaldehyde, which is most of you guys are familiar with, which is used to embalm dead bodies. So anything used to embalm dead bodies, I'm probably not going to put it on my body because it's really not healthy for you. And so it's non-toxic, it's safe for pregnant women. And a lot of women, like, you still want to be fashion forward, like when you get pregnant. You don't want to just like let go of yourself, right? You still want to like look good, get your hair done, but you're not realizing all these chemicals that you're putting on your body, even when you get a perm, like to make your hair curly. When you're pregnant, you're not supposed to get a perm because the chemicals like seep through your head. Your nails are very porous, your scalp's very porous, so it's important to realize what you're putting in your body while you're pregnant. And 8 Free basically doesn't include all those chemicals. I won't, announce them to you because it's kind of sound like gibberish. And we are also PETA certified. So I wanted to get PETA certified because PETA is an amazing program that basically practices safety for not testing on animals. And it kind of gives you kind of just that extra nudge in the industry, like, okay, she actually went out her way to get PETA certified. And this is kind of what I just told you. A lot of our colors are based on the fashion trends. So Pantone is kind of the standard color block trend that a lot of designers go off for New York Fashion Week, Milan Fashion Week, Paris. That sets the tone for like what they're going to be inspired by for the season. So to keep it in that luxury, trendy space, I use those palettes to basically formulate my colors for every season. We also have different things within the brand to make us stand out. So we have a Lust Cares campaign, which basically we're partnered with this year, an organization called Survive to Thrive. It's a domestic violence organization that helps women around the U.S. Get shelter, get food, basically resources if they're in a domestic violence situation. So even as a small brand, it's important to incorporate some kind of philanthropy or make how do I say this? Some kind of philanthropy or something about you that you want to put in your brand, because it is your brand. So you shouldn't feel like, oh, I can't put this in my brand because it doesn't really mesh. Like philanthropy and nail polish, they don't really mesh, but it's my brand and it's an opportunity for me to give back. So this is the way I decided to give back. We also have a recycling initiative. So if someone buys more than 10 bottles and they return 10 bottles, they get 10% off, and the bigger the order, it scales up. So it's just an incentive, like, return the bottles, help save the world. We have monthly newsletters so you can stay up to date with what's going on. As a small brand, it's good to inform and keep your customers notified of what's happening. Even if you aren't a customer, someone just decides like, oh, I like this website, let me sign up for the email address. You go on websites all the time. And even if you don't buy something at that moment, the next time they send you an email, you're like, oh, you know what? Let me check this out. This seems cool. So it's important to keep your customers engaged, even if you have 4 customers. I was sending out newsletters with 4 subscribers. And I was like, I don't know if I should even waste my time. Like, there's only 4 subscribers. Now it turned into like 150 and 200. So it's just important to like just keep your foot on the pedal. Like, don't feel like, no one's interested because it just takes time. But like, think of your brand as like, I'm already Gucci, right? Even though I'm not Gucci, like I'm gonna get there eventually. And then we also have a woman empowerment series, which I try to highlight women. I haven't really been doing it a lot because it takes a lot of time, but I wanna basically highlight Woman of the Month. Say, like we have Selena, Woman of the Month, working at UNH, helping students, just to try to like show people that we actually care about your day-to-day people. Even though you're a brand, it's important to, there are other people in the world besides people in fashion. And this is the ingredients it doesn't include. So you have formaldehyde, formaldehyde resin, camphor, toluene, DPH. So all these are really harmful chemicals that are in your typical nail polish brands like SE, OPI, anything that's not 5 free. They include all these chemicals. So I am 8 free, so it doesn't include all these chemicals. So this is the organization I talked about, Survive to Thrive Global. So this is just a little bit about them. And they selected the color red, so every time you purchase this color, which is May, this color is actually named after my grandmother because her favorite color is red. So 20% of the proceeds go to their organization. So this is just basically a chart that shows the symptoms, the chemical name, and the long-term effects. So one of the bigger ones is formaldehyde. It can lead to cancer. So people like really say like, does this really, like, do you really have symptoms? And if you like Google how porous your fingernails are, you will realize that it seeps in the second you put it on. Oh, so these are just some pictures. I don't know why all of them are popping up. This was, I'll talk about this. This was last year at New York Fashion Week. So do you recognize that Getty Images? I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. When you go on Google, celebrities have like Getty Images. So like when I took that picture, I was like, oh my God, like it's so official. I have like a Getty image because Patrick McMillan is like a celebrity photographer, and he was at the event. So I actually didn't participate in New York Fashion Week. This was kind of like a press lounge, but there I was very brand new, and I just networked. And I never really understood like the experience and the opportunities of networking, even as someone who has like, I didn't really have a website at that time. I just had only one collection, but I was like networking like crazy at that event. And from the event, I'm doing another press lounge with the organizer of this event this year, and now this year is going to be Vogue, it's going to be Essence, it's going to be all these amazing people, and she's not charging me to do the event. Last year she charged me to do the event, but it just shows you that networking goes a long way. She just really appreciated my professionalism, how dedicated I was to the event, even though I was new and I wasn't really, you know, my name wasn't really out there, and so she really appreciated that as well. And this is, so this is an event I did for Makeup Forever. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Makeup Forever. It's a European-based makeup brand. They're big and like they have stores in New York and LA. So I actually met the woman from Makeup Forever at that press lounge, and we were just chatting like, hey, how are you? Like, who are you? I've never seen you before. Do you live in New York? Like, are you a blogger? Are you an editor? And I was like, no, I actually own the nail polish brand that the beauty editors would get their nails painted there for free. So she was like, really? Like, wow, I've never heard of that. Like, how long have you been in business? Like, she just was curious because she'd never heard of me. She's like, well, we're actually doing an event on Makeup Forever, and Essie is usually our sponsor. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, you know, I thought she was just like talking to me about the event. She's like, but Essie hasn't responded back to us yet. So I was like, okay, well, I'll definitely be open to doing the event. Like, is there a fee? She's like, no, it's not a fee. Like, we usually just work with Essie because they have a bigger platform and they invite more customers in. So she was like, you know, if Essie doesn't get back to us, we'll use you. And I was like, are you serious? And she was like, yeah, we'll definitely use you. So long story short, because I was there and because I paid for the event, and as a new brand, you're not going to be able to do anything by getting income. You're going to have to give, and pay to be in other people's spaces because you need the opportunity and you need the network. That's basically what the whole point is of networking. So yeah, from that event, I met her, and then I did an event for Makeup Forever, which is huge. So that's kind of what I wanted to touch on from the PowerPoint. So a few things I wanted to touch on is marketing. I think it's important to know your target market. Because I wanted to be in the fashion industry space, I had to do all these events in New York, and I'm from Boston. I was working a 9-to-5 at the time. I was a healthcare analyst on the financial reporting team, which is a really intense job. Every month you have reporting. It's very demanding. You don't stay your 9-to-5, you stay to 6 to 8. And I had to make a sacrifice. I said, either I work hard and help my business grow, but I'm gonna lose out on opportunities at my job. Like, my performance is gonna start to deplete because I can't be here. I can't be, both places can't get 100% because I'm only one person. So I was like, okay, and now I'm gonna have to just travel to New York. So I started taking off a lot of days from work, and my boss commented one day, he said, you're gonna have to choose between being an analyst and being your own boss. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not in that space right now. So for right now, I'm here. And January 31st was my last day at my job, needless to say. So it was a very hard decision because, you know, it's a good job, it's corporate America, it gives me everything that I ever want. Like, I went to UNH, I graduated with a degree in health management and policy. So that was like right up my alley. I really enjoyed my job, but I couldn't give it my all. And especially traveling to New York, because New York was my target market with the fashion industry. So I need to say that I think it's important to know your target market, and you have to make sacrifices to basically reach out to your market. resources. Resources are important. When I first started, I didn't really have a lot of resources, and they have a lot of incubated programs. Like they have Mass Challenge. They have even like your local community center might have one. There's one in like in the inner city of Boston called Fairmount Innovation Lounge. A lot of them, you don't have to pay for them. And even if you don't get accepted to the incubator program, you can go and just ask them about resources. Because a lot of small businesses don't have the funds to do trademarking. So trademarking is a big thing when you start your brand. I didn't trademark, and there's actually a brand called Less Cosmetics. So yeah, the lawyer told me it's gonna be hard to get your brand Less Cosmetics. So Less V Cosmetics is actually my website. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna just use Less V Cosmetics. So just certain things that you run into that you don't realize as a small brand. If you start from the beginning and you lay a solid foundation, you don't kind of have to go through these hiccups. And it's important to talk to other entrepreneurs, because even if you're perfect, there's always some kind of hiccup you didn't like check on that comes creeping up back on you now, like this trademarking issue. So hopefully it passed. I think everything will be fine. And investors. So I don't have any investors at the moment. I have a potential investor. So I just want to touch on investors because when you first start your company, I would suggest not to get an investor from the ground up, because you want to be able to have full control. And not all money is good money. So that's what I learned. Like some people want to give money, but then they want the full control of your business. Some people want to give money and then step away and never like talk to you again. They just want their equity back of what they put in. So finding an investor once you're kind of up and running and you realize what you want to do with your brand, then you can come to the table strong. Like I have this, I have features, I have this amount of revenue, I have this amount of followers. Then that's when you go to the table. But before then, it's kind of like they'll suck you up, because they're going to do you're going to do whatever they want to do because you need their money. And that's really it. So I hope that was very helpful and I didn't ramble too much.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. I appreciate you guys all coming out, listening to us here. I just wanted to give you a little bit of background on why I'm even here. I'm not a UNH grad, but I'm hoping that I've got some insight and some background. I'm assuming everybody here has got some interest in being an entrepreneur, or at least, curious about what it is to be a business owner. I got a little experience in that regard, so I'm kind of hoping that at some point tonight you're going to take away a little tidbit. Feel free to ask me questions. I'll do my best to, give you insight on my experiences. Quick little background. Ian and I have known each other for a long time, and he basically said, I got this series about innovators or entrepreneurs that come from all backgrounds. I'm like a perfect example of that. As you can tell, I was an art major. My focus was in illustration. I graduated from UMass Dartmouth back in '89, in the Stone Age, it seems like. And I was a graphic designer for about 3 years. I left there, my little portfolio, out into the real world. Got a graphic design job for about 3 years. I ended up, this was back in '89, with the economy, if you can imagine, was worse than it was now, and getting a job was brutal. So I ended up getting some smaller design jobs. Ended up working for this newspaper in their art department. Worked there. I was making about, I think, 14 grand a year, living at home, driving an hour to work, and I was thrilled to have a job. I ended up working there, and the manager of the art department was kind of this Gestapo. She liked the place to be quiet. I like to talk a lot. So they ended up literally moving me from the art department to the sales department in the same company. So that was the start of my sales background. So I had this art background and this sales background, selling. Now imagine selling line ads in a newspaper to like cleaners and all that on the phone. It was pretty brutal. But I cut my teeth in the sales department, and then I ended up getting a job in the Seacoast. I grew up in Massachusetts. I was in Framingham, and I was driving to Haverhill. I got this job at this company called MicroArts, which is an agency in, are you familiar with it? An agency in Greenland. A friend of mine, it was an entrepreneurial company. It was a startup company, probably making about $500,000 a year in sales at that time. So not a ton, but decent. And And this position that they were creating was a position that they were wanting a sales guy for design services. Ding, ding, ding. Perfect. I got this art background. I got sales background. I came in and I had this crappy little database that was about 20 years old and a phone. And I basically had to pound the pavement, look up, go to the Best Buy. We also did a lot of software packaging. I would go to the stores, look up packages, kind of figure out how to get, leads that way, and kind of working through all that. That company I helped it grow. It ended up getting sold. As you can imagine now, the dot-com era came. We started doing a lot of branding and marketing for a lot of business to business, a lot of entrepreneurs with these great ideas, and ended up selling the company. Not mine, the owners sold the company for about $88 million. So it blew up. Second, the dot-com world and the bubble burst, that company was worthless. The company that bought it was a large conglomerate in the UK. I was out of a job. They sold the company. I was done. I ended up going to New Zealand and Australia for about 3 months. I was in my early 30s. I was supposed to go for 2 weeks. It was 3 months. Needless to say, my girlfriend at the time, was not too thrilled about that. I came back and I started saying, what's my next gig? And I figured, you know what? I think, although I really loved working at MicroArts, and it was about as entrepreneurial a business, and it was a place where if I had to work for somebody, I was working with my friends. It was an entrepreneurial environment. It was a great place to work, but I felt like I wanted to be my own boss, right? I was probably in a position where a lot of you guys maybe are now or are thinking about it. Well, I ended up coming back from there, and I was working out at Planet Fitness in Portsmouth, and they were still privately owned. There was 7 locations at the time, and my now business partner and I happened to be working out at this gym at the same time, and we just had a conversation. I was kind of at this crossroads. I'm like, do I want to start my own agency? What do I want to do something else? And my buddy just happens to go, Planet Fitness is starting to franchise these places. And I was like, really? I'm like, oh, well, I like to work out. I like this place. I like the business model. Let's go, I'd be willing to check it out. So literally 3 months later, my buddy and I are signing a contract to open up our first gym. So I became a Planet Fitness franchisee. I've been doing that now for 14 years. So needless to say, it wasn't a little gig, but I'll get into more about the background on that. I'm also opened a business a couple of years ago with another friend of mine. It's called the Blind Pig Barber Company. I'll get into a little more detail in a minute on that. I grew up in Massachusetts, like I told you. I've lived on the Seacoast now for about 24 years, happily married to my wonderful wife, Lindsay, and I got 2 young boys, Louis and Angelo. They're 7 and 4. So as I mentioned, I got into this business. This was back in 2004. I was one of the first franchisees for the company. So they had a lot of the system in place, but it was nothing near the business that it is today. A lot of the stuff we still needed to do on our own, find the location, get the loans, end up finding the contractors, doing all the build out and all that stuff, finding the financing. It was scary. I went from making, at the time at MicroArts, we had the company built up. I was making a 6-figure income doing sales, and I was doing pretty well for myself. Flash forward, I'm now a gym owner making about 40 grand, standing behind the desk with my name tag and wondering what the hell I just did, thinking, is this where it's all come to? And when you get into a business like this, you're a small business owner. People think of franchise, you get in, they give you everything for free. I actually had an employee who thought they gave me everything for free. I'm like, every nut and bolt in this place, I paid for, So I'm literally behind the desk. I'm plunging the toilets. I'm painted the place. I helped, do the demo of the location. I used to lay awake at night and dream about bathroom partitions and if they're going to be installed on time to open up this business. So there was a lot of stress and a lot of fear. And the other thing is, I literally, when you're signing up for this kind of thing, you are signing your life on the line. My house was on the line. Everything I owned was on the line to get this business started. Thank God it worked. My partner and I, we got through. We ended up saving our money, ended up working through. It was over about the 3rd year. My first club was in Amesbury, Mass. It was a small little club. It was a, This is it right here, my baby. It was about 8,000 square feet in the Planet Fitness world. That's about the size of this room. It had no showers. It was literally this was my little gem here. And we ended up running this for about 3 years, and then we were able to save up enough money the old-fashioned way, and got a little small loan, and to be able to open up my second club in Plastow. So we ran that. Ran that for a while, and then basically in that period of time when we had developed this Planet Fitness model started blowing up. So we're just putzing along, saving our money up the old-fashioned way, and these other guys started coming in with either bank backing or they had their own equity, and the business model started blowing up, and they ended up pretty much buying up New England. When I was there, you bought a town, like you reserved the rights for a town, and you kind of worked your way. The model changed with people coming in and basically purchasing areas. So by the time we were ready to expand, New England was gone. I'm like, oh crap. Okay, so now we've invested this time and energy, about 3 years. My buddy and I had to make a decision. Do we, just run our 2 little gyms, make my 40 grand a year, or do I want to push forward and take another level of risk and expand our business out of New England? We decided, what the hell, let's try to do that. I had another partner come on, and we ended up looking outside of New England. We figured we want to stay within a couple-hour flight. Went down to Jacksonville area and saw some opportunity down there. Took another risk, bought a territory down there, and we literally, my partner and I convinced my manager of my Plastow club. She was a younger, in her early 20s, single girl, and I'm like, you have any interest in moving to Jacksonville, Florida? She's like, sure. My buddy and I packed up a U-Haul with all her stuff, went to her house, moved her stuff out of the house, put her car in the back of it, and we drove her stuff down to Florida in 2 days. Unpacked her into a house that we were renting, and she helped us start our business down in the Jacksonville area. So we opened up our first club down there in 2009. We had a 7-club area development agreement. We opened up the 7 clubs, and then our business started growing. It was doing pretty well, and we decided to expand on that, and we added another 14-club area development agreement on that to develop. So we have 10 clubs down in the Florida area currently right now, and we're hoping to be able to expand all that in the next few years. This is, assuming most people here have been to a Planet Fitness. Yay, nay? Yay? They're much different now. My clubs now are like 22,000 square feet, 1,000 treadmills, all the weights and all that stuff like that. So the business model has changed a lot, and our, being able to get investors and from the bank, loans and all the stuff has really changed quite a bit as well. So flash forward now, a couple of years ago, as we've grown the business, I was able to bring management level teams in, other people to sort of separate us from the day-to-day operations, my business partners and I. So we have people who can do a lot of that work. It's freed up my time to not only spend time with my family, but to potentially look into other endeavors. So a buddy of mine, another entrepreneur, came to me, and him and I had talked about trying to do some business together. And he came to me with this idea. He's like, hey man, I got this thought. What do you think about opening kind of a high-end men's barbershop salon? We kind of talked through some of the aspects of it. It's a growing industry. The men's, I'm sure most guys now, you take care of yourself a little bit more so than you did, years ago. And so we saw the opportunity, and I was very interested in that. So we talked through that business model, and we decided we wanted to, it's not an original concept. What your model and your business doesn't have to be this eureka. It doesn't have to be something new. You can just be a variation of an existing business, and that's what this is. But our thought was we wanted to do something that was going to focus on customer service. Planet Fitness model is a customer service model. It's not just about working out. It's about coming in and having an experience at the gym, not being intimidated, no judgment, all that, right? The same thing we wanted to do with our barbershop, the Blind Pig Barber Company. We wanted to change that business model by having the experience be better. So we also borrowed some of the concepts from our other businesses. For example, instead of just being walk-ins, we also would do a membership model. Similarly, lower, relatively in the industry, a lower cost model, $50 a month, unlimited haircuts, and you get 20% off other services that you get. So we kind of borrowed some stuff. I have a massage chair in the back of the in the back of the shop if you want to do a free massage while you're waiting for your haircut. So, again, my friend and his businesses, we borrowed some of the, some of the model that he had and put that into our business as well, too. Our first location is in Portland, Maine. And so this is some photos of the spot. So you can tell it's not your grandpa's, barber shop. We wanted the place to be sort of loosely defined on a like a speakeasy or a lounge, and have a place where guys can come and not feel like you're at your wife or your girlfriend's salon. You want to get a manicure, you want to go in, have a little color put in your hair, but not feel like you're in this uncomfortable environment. You want to be in sort of this man cave lounge. And even the term the blind pig comes from the 20s. It's a term from the speakeasies back then. This is where that came from. Again, here's some pictures of the place. Now you also, one of the great things, our reception desk is also a bar. So you can also get a cocktail if you want to get your hair cut. You can get a scotch or a beer, a soda, coffee. Again, it's these guys that come in who first think they're coming into a barbershop. They walk in and they're like, whoa, this is not what we expected. Next thing you know, you're getting a scotch, you're sitting in a massage chair, you're waiting to get your hair cut. They're like, I think I can get used to this, So it's, it's a very different experience that you're going to have at your regular spot. So our sales have grown about 74% year over year since we've opened. We've opened now for a couple of years. So obviously, our appointments have increased quite a bit. And one of the factors, the bill points that I'm really proud of is our reviews. We keep getting these 5-star reviews, which means that we're doing it, that experience that I was talking about, we're nailing it. And that's really the key, is that customer service, aspect of it. So our goal is to try to expand the business, probably keep it, obviously privately owned, but who knows? We might take the risk again and see if the business model works and we prove it out. Maybe it's a franchising opportunity. We'll have to see, how that's going to play out as well too. But, as you can kind of tell, somewhat of my background here, there's been sort of different tiers over the years of stepping up to the plate again and taking risk and trying something new and getting to an uncomfortable space once again. But anyway, sorry to be a little long-winded here, but I just wanted to give you some aspect of, why I'm here, and feel free to ask away. So thank you.
Thank you both. I'm interested in hearing from you first. What are you hearing? What are some themes? Anybody? Yeah.
They're working for people first before jumping right into the
Interesting,
market.
right? So I didn't start out, right, just starting my own business, my own gig, but I started in a, not necessarily a corporate environment, but I worked for someone else. And in your case, Sam, absolutely. I took my background from UNH and I did the most logical and most aligned next step, which was to jump into the corporate world. And so why was that important to you?
Well, when I first graduated, I was actually interning at Boston Children's Hospital. That was, at the time, that was my passion. I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I didn't think it was real, especially like graduating with student loans. My mother and father isn't rich, but the rest of my family, they're pretty okay. So I knew I couldn't just say, hey, Mom, I want to start this. Like, I had to save my money and somehow actually come up with a real plan to execute it. So after Boston Children's Hospital, I worked at Blue Cross. So I was a financial underwriter there. So I was like, okay, a little bit more money. Like, I can get used to this, like, $50K a year. This is solid. And then I was like, oh my God, this is okay. But like, I can't afford a car. I'm living with roommates in the inner city. I don't think this can be my real life. Like, I'm not making that much money. So I was like, okay, I need to find something else. I need to go. So then I applied to grad school. I applied to almost 3 grad schools. I didn't get in. So I was like, okay, let's reevaluate. So I was like, maybe like I should really focus on trying to live my dream. But I was like, how am I going to do that? How am I going to live my dream? But I think it was important for me to go through that phase because maybe I would have never recognized or realized like that I do have the passion and I do have like the experience and like the education to actually fulfill my dream. So without kind of getting in the corporate America setting, there's a lot of things that you learn that you don't realize that that you would have never learned. Because like going to school and doing your homework and like getting A's and B's is great, but like going and actual corporate America and applying that is way different. Like the politics at Blue Cross Blue Shield was just the politics in general in corporate America are hard. You know, you have to put your best face on, you have to be perfect. You have to do all your work. You have to stay late to show that like you're dedicated, but you're dedicated to corporate America. You're not dedicated to yourself, really. You don't really have your own time. So I think going through that process, and then once I started Tufts, I realized like, okay, I think I'm gonna actually do this. Now that I work for corporate America and I realize it's not for me, I'm gonna try to pursue my dreams. Needless to say, I don't have like a whole bunch of money saved, but I have something. In worst case scenario, I have like a degree, I have tons of experience, I have recommendations, I left on a great note that I can always go back. So it's not the end of the world, but it's a time for me to kind of live out my passion. And most people don't turn back, but it's just a thought in your head that, you know, you can go back.
So really, maybe you don't have a lot of money saved, but you certainly developed intellectual capital in that process. So I learned a whole lot more than I would have had I jumped right into starting my own business that I was able to apply once I got to that point that I was willing to pull the trigger. And I thought something else that you said that was really interesting. What it did was to build up we'll just use resume, right?
Yeah.
So that if this doesn't go my way, so far going my way, but if it doesn't go my way, or I decide that I want to go back, then I've got that. It sort of becomes a really nice place to fall back on. So, good perspective. How about you, Brian?
I mean, you know, there's a lot of the same. I mean, I guess when I came out of school, you know, I was doing the same trajectory as a lot of students. I think, you know, you get your degree, you go out, you find a job, and you go work for somebody else. So really, being an entrepreneur initially wasn't on the forefront of my mind, but I did grow up in a sort of an entrepreneurial family, whereas my mom owned a diner. We owned a little tiny diner. It was a breakfast joint. I literally started working there when I was 10 years old, sweeping the back room, and I moved up to the dishwasher, and then I moved to the waiter, and then I was, you know, a short order cook as well too. So it was like this ball and chain. I loathed it. Every summer, you know, my little black and white uniform would be waiting for me, and I'd have to go with my mom to go get the donuts and literally go to the restaurant. I worked there 6 days a week. You know, I mean, I'm in middle school and in high school, and I'm 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm having to drive to this diner and work, and you know, it was hard work, and my mom, you know, busted her ass, and earlier in my life I took for granted what she did, and it wasn't until later on in life I realized, oh man, this woman humped it her whole life, put 4, you know, kids through school, and in her entire life she never made more than $40,000 a year, and she literally raised our family. So I didn't have, you know, I had this sort of, I guess I didn't realize that this inherent sort of entrepreneurial seed. And then as I worked for these other companies, even they were small, I was working for somebody else, they were sort of entrepreneurial minded companies. And then really it was probably when I ended up working at MicroArts, and I saw like, wow, these guys, you know, have a really good gig here, and I really enjoyed the job. And it wasn't really until it ended and I had to like make a decision, do I go and continue to work for somebody else? But I also knew these guys, right? I'm like, they may have sold this company for $88 million, but they didn't invent the internet here, you know what I mean? They didn't, you know, these guys are not rocket scientists. I'm like, I used to drink beers with these guys and pass out on their couches, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute here. You know, if these guys can do that, you know, why can't I, you know? So that was really one of the key things for pushing me. But those experiences in working for somebody else, you know, were key. But also, don't discredit the experiences you're having here. Does everyone here like live on campus or live with people for the most part? Don't discount the fact that you already have started your corporate world, by the way, because you're living with people. You gotta, I mean, I'm sure you all love every roommate you ever had, right? You know, and the people you deal with or in the dorms or whoever, you gotta learn to interact with other people. You gotta learn to, you know, get along, communicate and all that. That's the groundwork to moving into that working world. You know, the opportunities that being an entrepreneur provide is financial freedom, hopefully, you know, that's the goal. I'll tell you right now, working for somebody else, you can make money, but you can truly gain wealth and become successful is for working for yourself. That's it. I mean, if you had the choice, am I going to have somebody else guide my life, or do I want to take the reins, as scary and as risky as it is? What do I want to do? You guys are all here for that.
You know, and I think, Brian, what you said is you really turned the entrepreneurial corner. Yes, you were with in entrepreneurial-minded companies, but it wasn't until you were out of a job, right?
Yep.
So the difference is when you are in the driver's seat, then you determine when you're out of the job or not someone else. So I think that's a really key thing. What are some other themes?
I just have a question.
Yeah, please.
After the founding team bought back MyCars, did you ever consider going back to them?
No, at that point, you know, it was way after the fact, and I had already started my own business. You know, I had already gotten back into it. The dynamic was different too. A lot of the same team were gone. I mean, these are literally. It was a very unique 10-year period. That these were some of the best people, still some of my dearest friends that I work with. I literally work with my friends. It was a completely different company. It was really the same. It was like in name alone. So.
Why did you decide on Florida for the other line of business?
You know, again, back to we looked around the area. You know, within a 2-hour flight. You know, I have family, and you know, I wasn't moving to Florida. I wanted to be somewhere. We had to jump on a JetBlue flight, direct flight. We looked in Chicago. We actually looked at buying some existing couple clubs in Chicago. We looked in Ohio. At the end of the day, I'm like, you know, Chicago. I mean, I love Chicago, but I was like, it's cold. You know, I'm like Ohio. I'm like, who the hell wants to go to Ohio? And then, you know, a lot of Florida had already been acquired, but Jacksonville had this opportunity, and we went down and checked it out. And I'm like, this might be sounding a nice place to come visit and see all that. You know, little did I know, some friends of mine who were in the system and I've been good buddies ended up going to Ohio, and they've got 25 clubs now, and they also have, you know, and they've got another 50 more on the list. So I mean, they blew up Ohio, and I'm like, damn it, you know, like why did I pick Florida? But in all seriousness, I mean, I cannot complain in my, you know, the success we've had down there, but that's really the reason.
So let me build on that one, Brian. When will enough be enough?
That's a great question. You know, I have this conversation with a lot of my friends. You need to decide, you know, what's your purpose in becoming an entrepreneur, right? Is it just like, I want to make money, I want to be rich, and I just want to buy a Ferrari, you know, or what, you know, what's your priority, and what is enough is enough? For me, the best benefit out of this, obviously I want to make money. You know, I want to have enough money to be able to do the things I want. I personally don't need a Ferrari or a boat. For me, it was spending time with my family and enjoying my kids growing up. My dad passed away when I was 3, so I didn't have a dad in my life. I have 2 boys, you know, and as a father, I'm like, the most important thing to me is raising these 2 men, and I'm literally living my childhood vicariously through my kids. I'm like, you know, full on Legos and, you know, superheroes, and that to me is like the joy I have. Like my kids, my wife doesn't work now since we've had our second son. My kids think that both parents are around all the time. Like I'm around for my kids. I wake up as my kids, they're like, yeah, everyone's parents are around. Nobody's parents are around. You know what I mean? This is completely different. So to me, that was a huge benefit. So again, you can chase the money and all that stuff, but I got a lot of friends of mine who are making a hell of a lot more money than I am that leave on Monday, don't see their family, they come back on Thursday, and Ian can attest, I spend my summers at the beach. You know, I hang out with my kids and do all that. So, you know, again, you need to figure out what it is that is your priority in life and what's important to you.
Sam, you made it sound easy. Don't you think? She made it sound easy. Wasn't? Yeah, you did.
No, it wasn't easy.
We'll talk about it.
So let me think. So I was contemplating about quitting my job for almost a year. And I just kind of like launched my business May 2017. So imagine that you launch a business, you're like, oh, I want to quit my job. But like you only have an idea and a plan. So my uncle is actually my partner in my business. So he actually goes to Pearson. He's actually 40, and he goes to Pearson University, which is a fashion school in New York. He's actually getting his master's in business, which is kind of weird. So when I go to like business meetings, he's with me. So people are like, maybe they're gonna do like something techie or something along those lines. And we're like, oh, nail polish and beauty. And then they're like, oh, who is he? And I'm like, he's my uncle. So having a mentor, even though he's my uncle, was essential. So I think that was the part that made it a little bit easier for me, was having a mentor. And And he kind of knows the ropes of these things because he's an entrepreneur. He actually left his job a few years ago. He has his own consulting firm. He used to work for Wall Street. So basically, he's a middleman between people who are trying to do Wall Street investments, and he basically connects them with Wall Street. So having a mentor was, like, if I didn't have a mentor, I would have been where my business is now, and I would probably want to have quit my job. But talking to him, like when I was applying to grad school, he was like, so are you going to do grad school or are you going to do your business? So I was like, I'm going to do both. He's like, no. He's like, UMass Boston, like, Northeastern, those universities aren't going anywhere. But like, if you're serious about building your brand and building a business, like that trajectory has to go somewhere immediately. Because once you build a business and if you don't make any kind of impact, you will fall flat. And then, not that people won't take you seriously, but it's like, what happened? What happened to your business? You've been up and running, and then you're stagnant. So I think that's important when you start a business, is to kind of just hit the ground running. And like you said, like where you want to go, like what's important to you. What's important to me is really, it's not really the money because I quit my job, obviously. So it's about like having the opportunity to be creative and build my own brand and do what I want. So I think personally, I'm going to be a serial entrepreneur, just like keep thinking of ideas and just keep building. And I think it's like fun, and it's refreshing to know that you're in control of your own life. So it's not easy. It's just you need to have a mentor and you need to have a plan and map out what you want to do. So I usually do a vision board. I know that's so cliche, but I had a vision board last year and I was like, quit my job, start law school, start business school. I had all these random things on there, just things that I wanted to do. And New York Fashion Week was actually on there. So I was like, I don't know how I'm going to be able to be a nail sponsor for New York Fashion Week because I'm not rich. I'm not any celebrity's kid. I have no interconnections within the fashion world at all. So that probably won't happen. And I know social media is like big in our age. So I started like a social media account, like an Instagram, Facebook. And this girl messaged me like, hey, there's an opportunity. She's a publicist, so she messaged me. She's like, hey, there's an opportunity for a designer named Tadashi. He's looking for a nail sponsor. He used to work with Essie, Butter London, and LVX. Are you interested? So I said, yeah, absolutely. Send me the email. So first of all, I was shocked that she even wrote me because she's a publicist out of New York. And I'm not on the level of Essie or LVX or Butter London, but she reached out to me because she saw my social media. So even if you don't have a lot of followers, it's the impact when people actually are following your journey and realizing like, wow, this girl is actually putting in work, actually posting, and not just the post, it's the content of what I'm posting. It's like basically drawing someone into your personal life. And making them see everything that you're going through in the process. So I guess she felt connected. I never personally asked her why she personally wrote me because there's tons of other brands. So long story short, I got to do New York Fashion Week, which just happened a few days ago last week with Tadashi. He's a huge designer. He's Japanese American. He's sold in like Neiman Marcus, Saks, Barney's, all those like high-end stores. And I got to work with them. That was my first fashion week ever. So your dreams do come true, but you have to figure out a way to make it happen and don't ever sell yourself short. Don't ever think any goal is too high because you can reach the goal. You just have to figure out how am I going to do it? When am I going to do it? Where am I going to do it? And just make a plan. Even if the plan sounds crazy, just put steps in the plan to make your goal happen. So I don't know if that was too much. Okay.
So follow-up question, Sam. So you're like the branding that you do is amazing, right? You talk about your product design, but when I think of HHS, like marketing and brand, I don't ever think of those two together.
Yeah.
You just talked about how you got to that place of recognizing your brand and your amazing Instagram and the look and the feel of that's phenomenal. Can you talk about that journey from how you got there from HHS to being a whiz at it?
Are you talking about HSS as in UNH?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, from health management. Okay.
So to me, those two are just polar opposites. How did you get there? Because it's phenomenal. Your brand work and product design pieces.
That's a good question. I don't know how to answer that. How did I get there? So when I first decided I wanted to start the nail polish brand, I reached out to tons of manufacturers. I reached out to chemists to see if I wanted to do my own branding, like my own chemicals at home, or if I wanted to do manufacture. But when you want to expand on a global level, manufacture is the best way. So like immediately I knew I wanted to be global. So I think that's the first step. So the first step is global. How do I become global? I can't make the product at home because I can't do mass production. Second step is how do I want my brand to look? Do I want to be luxury, high-end, or just kind of your middle market and sell to everyone like Target or Walmart? So I was like, no, I don't want to do that. So how do I need my branding to look? So I started actually Googling different ideas and putting it on kind of like a board like this, and I just printed out a whole bunch of pictures of other brands, similar brands in the lower end, higher end, price points, because then you need to think about your price point if you want to be a luxury high-end brand. So I basically had a board and I took all these different ideas and put one together, and I said, how do I make this come in one and represent me as a whole? So the square packaging is actually smaller than your typical nail polish bottle. It holds less ounces, and that's important because every time you open a bottle of polish, when the air hits it, the chemical format changes. Kind of like if you were to cut yourself and you bleed red, it's kind of like that concept. Like once it hits air, it changes the formula. So a smaller bottle was important to me because the more formula it have, the thicker the consistency, the longer even though the shelf life is the same, it doesn't last as long because it's too much. So that was important to me too, because people who are buying that kind of price point, they want to make sure it lasts and it's not gonna be gooey after a few months. And then the cap, a lot of gold is luxury, so I wanted to kind of play off that component as well. And everything you do, the pricing changes. So even if it costs like $2 to make, you have to think about when you go to retail, they chop that in half, and then your marketing, your shipping, your website, your travel, everything is baked in. So like when you buy something from the store, you're like, oh, this is $25. Like this isn't too bad. Like they're making a killing off of this like lipstick, but they're really not dependent on their margin. So I think that's important too. So I thought about a lot of things: branding, your margin, your price point. And coming from health management, I guess the financial aspect helped me a little bit. So that was important. And also like in the health world, being professional was important too, but not really the medical side. But I guess the medical side did help because, you realize that being healthy is really important. But it was just kind of a personal goal of mine to make the shift in the beauty market to be healthy, because I'm a consumer. So I buy a lot. So I was like, why not just make my own brand and make it something all about me, luxury, healthy, inclusive. So that was important. So I think the shift is just taking what you learned and putting it together, and don't think that these two worlds can't clash. Because there's a guy I know, he's actually a dentist and he's a doctor, which is weird. I don't know how he's both. He's a dentist. Yes. He's not from here. He's an immigrant from India, but he's both. So you can kind of do anything you want.
There you go.
Yeah.
The questions from the audience.
Can I just ask, what are you guys here for? Like, what were you looking to, to understand from this? Are you guys interested in starting your own businesses here? Have you gotten ideas? Are you in the beginning stages? I mean, where are you in your sort of thought process? Anybody want to jump up and or give me some insight here, or they could try to help you? Oh, all right, one at a time, please. I can only answer one.
There are several on this room already.
Yeah. What is it? Yes.
I'm always just interested to listen to what kind of struggles you guys come up, because when I think about an entrepreneur, I just picture this person with multiple arms,
Yep.
multitasking and doing everything by themselves.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So that's like the biggest thing for me. I think that's one of the most intimidating things. People want to come in and listen to how you guys started.
Yep.
Where was your mind at? I like how she started talking about how you know, who she had to reach out to, because I was wondering about that. Like, how did you start a nail polish line? Who did you have to contact to get the chemical? Like, there's so many things that you don't think about. So it's like anybody can say, I want to start my own business, but then you start really digging into what it really takes. You know, it's not just the financial, I want to make money. Then you have to, like, the marketing and the branding. And if you're coming up with a product like that, you have to reach out and figure out a formula. You want to make a perfume or whatever. There's so much that comes into it. So that's what I wanted to listen to.
So I can tell you a little bit about my struggle. I can tell you starting last week. I could just give you like a day-to-day. Monday, I went to New York. I drove to New York in the morning around 8 a.m. and I drove back to Boston. Tuesday, I went to the real estate office. Drove back to New York because I had a fashion show. Came home for the weekend. Went back to real estate office because I had showings. Today I came here, but this morning I was at real estate. Tomorrow morning I have a bus at 6 a.m. to New York, and then the next day I have a fashion show at 9 a.m. Then next day I'm going back to real estate. So it's constant, nonstop, because I have to make some money, so I do real estate on the side, but then I have to meet all these demands of doing my other business, and neither one can fall flat. The real estate is a little flexible because I don't have to be there all the time, but I need to be there to make money, to, you know, get rentals, get clients. So it's nonstop, and then on top of that, if I check my phone, I probably have like 15 emails. So even like if it's not a major company reaching out to me, it's some other company like, hey, we would love a kind donation. Hey, can you come talk to our students about entrepreneurship? Or it's some kind of email blast going on. But you have to take your time and respond to everything, because you never know, that little thing that you donate to, you can meet someone there that can actually help your career. So last week I went to 2 weeks ago, I went to LA. There was a trade show. And Amazon came by my table. I wasn't at my table because I'm only a one-man team. And my uncle has wife, kids, like he lives in New York, he couldn't come. So I was there all by myself from 9 to 9. And they must have came when I was in the restroom, and someone emailed me from Amazon. So I thought it was like a spam. I'm like, oh, like I'm gonna just delete this. And then it was actually a guy reaching out to me like, hey, we would love to feature your product on our website and work with you. So in 2 weeks, my brand will be on Amazon. So it's a difference when Amazon reaches out to you versus, like, you can sign up on Amazon right now and sell anything. But when they reach out to you, it's different because they need you almost on that perspective. So it's gonna be a different relationship from me uploading my brand than versus them reaching out to me. So kind of just that perspective. Like, it's just crazy, but it's all worth it. And you just have to, take one day at a time and just remember your end goal, but just be up for the challenge. Just be up for no sleep. But then it doesn't feel like you're working because you're doing something that you love. Yeah.
So also, just to touch on sort of at a high level, being an entrepreneur is not easy, okay? It's scary as hell. You're taking a lot of risk. You don't have all the answers. You might be leaving a job that you're making money. So those intimidating fears that you have are real, okay? They're definitely out there. You've got to go out and realize you need to work hard. Unfortunately, and I don't mean this is negatively, but your generation is whether for better or for worse has been tagged as lazy, nobody works, everything's gonna be handed to me, and obviously entitled. Obviously, you guys, as being in this room or being in this program here, you have an entrepreneurial spirit that not going to apply to you. It can't apply to you. It can't. Nothing is going to be handed to you for free. Nothing is going to be easy. Okay. Like I said, I laid awake at night wondering if I was going to lose my house. So you guys, it's hard work to do this. Okay, but I can't express enough the fact that just sitting in this building, that this university has this building, this opportunity for you guys to learn. I was just talking with Ian before, I'm like, this is like spring training for you guys as entrepreneurs, man. I mean, you guys can literally practice being entrepreneurs and networking and learning those factors that you're like, well, how do I start marketing? How do I get this line? Who do I call? You've got this, you know what I mean? You can literally practice with no consequences. You're not going to lose your house. You're not going to get kicked out of your dorm, you know. So I graduated in '89, okay? There was no internet. There literally was no internet, you know? There was no cell phones. I got my first job by going to the Boston Globe in the back in the Sunday paper, the help wanted ad was about this thick, and literally circling ads, calling up, and mailing my resume. I mean, it sucked. And it was like, and you and 9 million other people are doing the same exact thing. The fact that you guys have this place here is I cannot say, take advantage of this, you know? Ask those questions, you know, use the resources that you have here. Again, this is unbelievable. I wish I left college brutally unprepared for the real world. I mean, I walked out of school like, you know, and my portfolio, my art degree, and I got my ass kicked. I mean, I had no idea how to sell my skills. I had no idea how to manage money. I had no idea about any of that stuff. I had to learn a lot of that on my own. You guys have this basically waiting here for you, so it's a great place to start, you know.
So a couple things. What I'm hearing, if you are not a fan of hard work or risk taking, then it may not be for you, right? May not be for you. But no, won't be for you, for sure. But it's also interesting to listen to them talk about the passion and behind what they do, and they don't talk about it as like brutal or hard, right? It's not. It brings them energy. And so they're willing to sort of take themselves up to that next point of risk-taking, and they have enough confidence to say, yes, I can. Yes, I can do that next one. So that's what I'm definitely hearing is, yeah, all of that, that brutal schedule. But it doesn't sound, but you're.
But I'm just going to wake up and go because I'm
wake up and
excited.
But if you're doing that,
excited.
if she's doing that for somebody else, she's working for somebody else,
It's different.
it sucks.
Yeah.
I call in my boss made me I'm going to New York today to Fashion Week. It's her business.
Absolutely. And
I'm game. I'm on the plane early flight because I want to get down there and I'm going to hunt my
Exactly.
business.
Yeah,
I'm going to be
exactly.
into it. So
Let me
it's
put
a
that
big difference.
in perspective of the world of work, and an alarming percent of employees are not engaged. An alarming percent. You know, well over half of the workforce is not engaged. Another alarming percent, maybe 20%, are disengaged. And that's even worse because it really undermines everything. It certainly undermines. And what that translates into in terms of the impact on the economy is staggering. It's in the billions and billions of dollars. So I would submit that I won't say that about you two, that you're not engaged, right? No. So I think that's something that's really important for you guys to consider.
I mean, to that point, Trudy, too. I mean, if you think about it, if you really narrow it down, it's like our job, our goal here is that you graduate from college, you need to work to eat, right? To have a roof over your head. If you end up getting married and having kids, they're expensive. You know what I mean? So you're going to have to provide yourself a living in some fashion, right? Do you want to do it working for somebody else and punching the clock and doing that? And again, there's nothing wrong with that if that's, you know, if your comfort level is there, that's fine, but you realize that that's what you signed up for. Or do you want to take, you know, again, the reins in your own hands and try to provide a good lifestyle where you're living a more passionate career and job that you're waking up every morning being like, I'm excited to do something for myself.
Right, and the other option is to have, you know, to toggle back and forth, or perhaps have one foot in both, right? But if you're going to have one foot in the non-entrepreneurial side, do it with earnest, do it with a plan, do it with, you know, put everything you have into it so that you can grow while you're there, because it's only going to help you and benefit you either for that next job in corporate America or as an entrepreneur. There's no point in not.
I wanted to say something to her. Like, since I didn't have this kind of human age, like entrepreneur center, when I first knew I wanted to build my brand, I used to go to pitches. So there's like a lot of pitches that happen in New York. So I would travel on the bus because I couldn't afford a plane ticket. Like, I still travel on the bus, 4 hours to New York, and just every day, like, well, every weekend that I would go, I would take a notebook and write down different topics that they talked about. So they talked about marketing. Like, even though some of this stuff was going over my head at that time, I just jotted down everything, handed out business cards. My business card says Samara Walker, UNH alumni, cell phone number, email address. That's all I was just giving out, just because I was interested and I wanted to learn more and meet all these people that were talking about, you know, technology and beauty and all these different things. And I didn't have that resources back in Boston, because Boston's very like healthcare, you know, medical school, and very white collar. So I had to like go and expand outside of my resources at home to get what I was seeking, and that was what I was seeking.
And in today's environment, that's all there.
Yeah.
That is all so accessible. And you can actually learn from some of the best top professors in the world on a topic for free. So there's no reason not to do what
Yeah,
you've done.
the information
No
is
reason.
there.
It's unbelievable.
You can, resources are everywhere.
Yeah, the world is so different, isn't it, Brian? Than, yep.
No internet.
No, I know, no phones and no laptops. Actually, I had one of the
I didn't
first
touch a computer until I
portable
graduated
computer,
college. I
which
never touched a
weighed
computer.
like over 100 pounds. I swear to you. So, yeah.
Just a quick observation too is that you don't have to always have the idea. So Sam, you had this idea of wanting to have a vegan product and all that, right? And speaking with Brian, you started looking at franchise, right? So they're both ownership, it's both passion, you both risk it.
Right.
So, you know, one of the things too is I always sometimes hear this, like I don't have the giant idea. It's not about giant ideas. It's about passion. And you guys said almost exactly the same thing, which is controlling your own life.
Yep.
Right? But you said it's independently. But there's many different flavors of how you do that, and that's really cool to hear.
Right, back to, I mean, as I said before, is we didn't, for my barbershop business, you know, and I did not invent, you know, this business model. It's out there. Even the men's high-end lounge, you know, concept is still there. I'm just like, I think we can do it better, because we used our experiences from our customer service backgrounds. My partner and I were like, man, we definitely can do this better. And you didn't invent products, you know what I mean? These were the products, you know, but she's like, I can do this better. I'm going to make it.
I think that's it's just like, you know, I can up the game on this. I went to a yoga studio last night where, new studio, the yoga practice was the same as the Y. But you know what was different is that they had every single person there practicing got a special treatment of essential oils and Reiki. So it was just different, right? And they're able to charge a whole lot more than the Y, a whole lot more. So, yeah.
I've often heard it described that entrepreneurship or entrepreneurial spirit is like a disease, with like a bug. Like once you catch
Like
it,
a cereal,
you can never go back.
yeah.
So that's an absolute fact. It's kind of like a tattoo. You get one, and next thing you know, you got a
It's hard,
sleeve, right?
And then you can't get them off, right?
Sam, I alluded to that as well too. I have not seen my resume in 25 years. Okay, the thought of if my business at this point were to fail catastrophically, the thought of getting a resume together and putting it in my briefcase and walking into somebody, I would probably cry. I don't know what I would do, because the thought of working for somebody else at this point, it ain't happening. Like it just is not. It just cannot. So once you get that taste and that feel of control over your own destiny, yeah, man, you're gonna realize it's never gonna be.
That's
you
what,
can't
to your
go
point,
back.
yeah, Sam, I think I'm a serial entrepreneur. I want to come back to that in a second.
Yeah, over the years, how have you seen the way technology has changed the way you guys do your jobs?
Did I mention the internet thing? Because I mean, it's you know, I mean, I remember when even at MicroArts, when I was, you know, this was a tech. I remember when the company got our first, you know, fax line, internet line, you know, like literally it was an hour to download something like that. But it was a game changer, you know. Being able to email somebody something, you know. I mean, just now, you know, the social media is crazy. I mean, you know, you hear all the negative stuff about it, obviously, with, you know, people and bullying and all these things, you know, from a personal perspective, from a business perspective. What you can get, the information you can gather, the follow-up, you know, of my barbershop, we use a proprietary product that's in the industry, you know, it's and it's the second they leave, they get a survey, and you know, I mean, you get instant feedback from your customers to understand how to improve your business, you know, and again, you get the bad ratings or good ratings, and other ways to market to your inexpensively. I mean, we used to send, you know, my early days with my Planet Fitnesses, thousands of flyers be sent out, you know, printed flyers at thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, which was a huge expense. Then all of a sudden you can do an email campaign or something like that. It made such a big difference.
You know, I think what I heard you say a couple of times, Sam, is like, who knew that I could be at Fashion Week? Who knew that I could be up there and be exposed at a level of a Gucci kind of level? Who knew? But I think it's because of technology.
Yeah, because it's social
Absolutely,
media.
because of the social media is
And
really.
then you get different people from different states. Like have people internationally follow me that I would have never met unless I physically go there and like visit them. Like social media opens a huge platform, especially for our generation, like that 25 to 35 age range. It's like huge. Like they always, how many followers do you have? Like, before I didn't care how many followers I had. And now with the technology component, I'm actually adding a technology component to my brand. So technology is like the sky is the limit. You can do whatever you want with technology. And then when you have technology incorporated with your brand, it's like perfect because everyone uses technology. So I think when you have a brand, you can also keep building on that idea. So like who would have ever thought nail polish and technology goes together?
Right.
No one. But you can just keep thinking of ways to enhance this one thing, and it's like a snowball effect. And once that snowball is that big, then you're like, okay, let me start rolling my next snowball. And whether it's tech, whether it's gym, it doesn't matter, whatever it is, you can.
The other part of it too is back to again, when he's doing the flyers, like specifically from a marketing perspective. For me, it was a big deal because I sent it out and I'd be like, I don't know if this worked. I just spent $15,000 on flyers. I'm like, what did I get as a return? And the people selling me the flyers, they don't know what the return was. You can literally get that kind of feedback instantly using the digital marketing, which is a game changer.
I have a question about following up with people that you meet with. Like, say you just meet with somebody and they help you in some way that's maybe they're not like a long-term mentor or anything like that, or even maybe they don't even become a client. But I had a professor in Paul's school here who was really emphatic about sending handwritten thank you notes under like almost all circumstances. And even if you just meet somebody and they help you once, and that was sort of inspiring on the one hand, but on the other hand, I wonder if there's a limit to that. Like,
Depends on how many.
Is there a point at which you like maybe it's too much to send a handwritten thank you note? Like, how do you think in terms of following up with people?
Well, if you saw my handwriting, you'd never want to get a letter from mine anyway, man. You'd actually need to have like a hieroglyphic expert to come and do that. But I know similar guys like that too. It's like the handwritten card, and it's always it's there is an impact to that now, especially nowadays where people are so blasé in the way they respond to stuff. I don't even talk on the phone anymore. I mean, literally, I'm like, I just text everybody, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so there's a lot of that impersonal aspect. So I think that's probably a case-by-case situation. I don't think you need to, all of a sudden it's your crusade to be like, I'm going to write letters to everybody. But if there's somebody special or that really helped you, or a lead that you think that, I think I'm going to, we're going to do something, I want to think of something original to send this person. I remember back, in the days, even when I was doing sales at MicroArts in the early days, and there'd be a client that we were trying to woo, we would spend some money and put together a really good package as an introduction, just to be like, hey, trying to get above the, everybody else. And again, back then it was, marketing person being inundated with stuff. I know I realize you're talking about a mentor or somebody to thank, but it's like, in order to get yourself noticed, there was ways of doing that too. But
It's interesting because I'm just going to connect a couple dots there, Brian and Sam, to respond. I think it may come down to authenticity, really deciding about, who you are. And that, Sam, that has been like such a theme for you, right? I did this because it's really so much about me, and I want that to come across. So I think do that, network, respond in a way that's really authentic to you.
I still do handwritten letters and notes. Like for the holidays, I have handwritten letters for all my customers. It wasn't that many. But yeah, it wasn't that many. So I was like, I think anything under like 300, you can do a handwritten, especially if you're a small business. Just take the time out. Because like you said, with like internet, social media, it just shows that like you actually took that extra mile. And people are like, wow, that was really nice of her, versus just getting the email blast like, oh, okay, delete. That's all they're going to really do. But like getting that mail to something to your house and like opening it, just says something. It's like the experience. Like you feel like you're actually getting an experience, and like they're a person. Because now, like when you buy a brand, like I don't know the owner of Dior, right? But imagine them sending you a letter to your house. Like how special would you feel? you would feel like, wow, that's amazing. Like they actually took the time out. Like I know it's a human versus a computerized system just pressing go. So
I had a vendor, working, me for my, because I was a good client of theirs, and this was at the microstate, sent me the little gift package, popcorn, a couple movie tickets, a couple little thing came up in a little, just a thank you for doing business with him or something like that. I was like, wow, man, like now that guy knows I'm on the hook now, like, I feel, but it was very, it was special that they did something like that. Not to say you want to do that to everybody.
But yeah, or once a year or something.
Yeah.
I want to come back to your question and just offer another interesting data point, which is that I think it's today, around 40% of the workforce are independent contractors. Expected to climb by the end of the decade to well over 50%. So what that says to me is a whole bunch of us need to become very entrepreneurial, right? Because we may not have our own business, but we'll have something that we offer in a way of a skill set, a service, because that's what's trending. So just think that's something for you to keep in mind that's right around the corner. The whole definition of employee is just changing dramatically. Dramatically. Very interesting.
And the cost and the benefits.
Oh,
I mean,
and all
back in
that
the
that
day,
goes,
it was, you'd work for a pension, right?
Exactly.
It was like,
No
I'm
more-
going to work my whole life,
Because
to
that-
die,
right.
basically, to get my pension, and, in a job that I loathe.
Right.
Where that
That's
you're
not
not getting the
happening
gold
anymore.
watch anymore,
Man, that's exactly right.
And you're
I
not
mean-
getting the benefits, even health benefits.
No, even
They're,
that
are
independent
not,
contractor does not come complete with a suite of benefits. That's right. Or the damn watch, yeah. Those watches were more
Quick
worth.
question. So there are some entrepreneurs that go into business with the goal of eventually sitting at the other side of the investment table.
Yeah.
What are your guys' perspective on that as individuals?
Being an investor?
Good question.
Yeah, like
You're being
getting-
sold?
Yeah, being sold or
Sold.
having the goal of entrepreneurship eventually become being able
Via
to
VC?
be in a position to be on the other side of the table for other entrepreneurs.
It's funny. I mean, I literally just recently, another buddy of mine came to me with an opportunity to invest in a small company in the waste management industry. Believe it or not. Again, I'm like, I look at my portfolio, my resume, my mental resume, and I'm like, art major to waste management. Go figure. But it's a technology that I think is in, and especially now these days, I'm like, wow, this is really sustainable. It's very relevant. And I'm like, oh, like this is another business. I may not be in the running it, but they needed some bridge funding to get over the next step there to get this product. I'm like, yeah, man, I'm bought in. I get it. I dig it. Obviously there's a way to make money in that, but you feel like you're contributing to a completely different business, and it feeds that entrepreneurial, that seed, like you said, that little sickness, to get you going. So there's other opportunities out there, and you never know. That's the other thing. You never know where other opportunities are going to come. My mom always said, jokingly, be nice to everybody because you never know who's going to know you or know somebody around you. And it sounds funny, it's true. These relationships, these people that you bump into, a letter, a conversation you have with somebody could literally send you on your path to your new career.
It's true, isn't it? This is what we're hearing. Some very, very basic good things to do. Be kind. But know that whoever you meet, there might be something there for you in the future to say thank you, to work hard, to be respectful. Those are huge things that have really stood the test of time.
It is. It's a
they?
basic, it's
Stood the test
basic
of time.
manners. Don't be
Yeah.
a jerk.
Don't be a jerk.
Don't be like, what, I'm never going to see this person. I'm not going to tell them off because next thing you know, that person's on the other side of the bank who you want to get money from,
you
right?
certainly don't want to come back to you in one of the ratings in Yelp. I want to turn this a little bit to some interesting article in this is very recent, Inc. So apparently, U.S. entrepreneurship is at a 40-year low. But it's going to provide one of the best, women actually going to provide one of the best routes to the future. But some statistics to put that in perspective, the top 25 entrepreneurs compiled by Ranker features only 2 women, Oprah Winfrey and Vera Wang. So the number of women entrepreneurs is still low, right? There's been a spike. There was a spike in 2014, and now we may be up to around 23% of the entrepreneurs that were seeking angel capitals. So what do you think? Why is it so low?
Well, I can speak from the fashion industry, like the beauty scene. A lot of the beauty brands are owned by men. A lot of people don't know that. And they're older men, so this was at a time where women weren't working, women didn't have education, women were just basically staying at home, didn't have careers. So these older brands that are what we see, they're owned by men, and a lot of women feel intimidated going into that space, even though it's a space that should be dominated by us, for us, but it's not. That's the first thing, and then also the capital, building capital. So if you don't have millions of dollars, essentially millions, that's what you need to be on a global scale. It's hard to be successful, and then you get discouraged. You get discouraged because you compare yourself to other brands, and it's like I always describe it. It's like riding a bike. You're riding up a hill. And like you have to stand up to ride that bike, right? Because you have to get the momentum. And the moment someone throws a brick or something at you and you fall, you're all the way back at the bottom.
Exactly.
And you have to start. And then all these people are speeding past you because they already know the game. They already know how to ride the bike. So if you don't have mentors, if you don't have resources, if you don't network, and if you don't shake hands with everybody you cross paths with, you're gonna fail, and it's really hard, especially for women. It's really hard.
I think it is, and I don't think it's that different than sort of the corporate world and the number of women who we see at the C-suite. But in this article, they cited that there are 3 key reasons that the job for boys, but the entrepreneurship has been male dominated. It has been male dominated. Any time that happens, it's going to take a while for that. For there to be any sort of change. Support seeking. Well, when you don't have enough women entrepreneurs, there's fewer mentors out there that are available. And then the business and family balance, right? There's always that. That's a constant challenge. So, what else do we have out there? How are we doing?
Like, to comment on that, like the woman and family, Oprah talked about she didn't want to have kids because she didn't want either one to suffer, and it was more important to her to be a businesswoman than have a family, and that's huge.
Yeah, she made that choice.
Yeah, I don't want to have to make that choice, but and think about it, my mentor is my uncle. I mean, my aunt, she has her own business, but my uncle is a more successful one, and who knows if that's just by chance, but he's a man. He worked on Wall Street, and it just kind of comes with the territory, I guess, of being a man. So it makes it difficult for women to succeed.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you, one thing you would, if they had to do it again, you'd do different?
For me, I probably would have been a little more aggressive. For example, if my gym situation, when I didn't probably didn't investigate other areas for financial help. I mean, we went with the banks and stuff like that, and they were like, they wouldn't even give me like a line of credit, But there could have been other opportunities because, again, what happened to me was I got locked out of where I live. I mean, I'm running a business 1,800 miles away from where I live. I have to get on a plane now because I didn't move quickly enough or have that insight. If I could go back now, I would have been like, I'm locking down this area here to have done that, So I think, don't be too as conservative, or try to see the future a little bit with the opportunities that you have ahead of you. And I've mentioned that to other franchisees too, of just in different industries that come to me, and I was like, lock down your area, They're like, well, I've got my one spot. I'm like, buy another one, because you're gonna want it, and someone else is gonna take it from you if you don't do it. So.
I would have started earlier, maybe just a little bit earlier.
So old.
Yeah. there's this whole movement, Forbes list 30 under 30, and I'm trying to get on the list, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm almost 27, but I still have time. I guess I would have started a little bit earlier, but when I mean started, I would have started opening my mind to different opportunities, meeting with other people, and just learning more. I mean, I did the best that I could working a 9 to 5, but I think actually maybe just putting a little bit more time in and meeting with different people. So there's a program called SCORE. I don't know if they have it in New Hampshire. Yeah. So I had SCORE mentor, and I was like, oh, like he's old, he can't help me. That was kind of like my perspective because I'm young, right? And I'm like, oh, I need someone hip, and so they always talk about like when you network, you want to network. We think we need a network up, but you actually need a network like this because it's this person that I'm sitting next to that could help me at this period of time because we're on the same playing field. It's important to network up too, but they're so high up, they don't remember what it's like being at this even playing field. They don't remember. They're like millionaires, billionaires, they're too busy for you. Oh, let's chat here, like I'm not free this month. But you need someone who's actually sitting right next to you on this journey that can be like, oh, you know what, I just talked to Bob. Like Bob has this resource that can help you. Like, okay, hey, let's meet for coffee, let's meet for lunch. So many entrepreneurs think networking up is good. It's actually this way. And then when you get the chance, you network up. So I would have stuck with my SCORE mentor a little bit longer. And maybe I would have, he would have told me, oh, do the trademark right now. If that's your name, lock it in, because the longer you use the TM, which is, you can use it even if you're not registered, the more claim that you have for, hey, look, I've been using this TM for 5 years, even though I'm not registered, it gives you a better fight when you process with your lawyer. Getting your LLC, well, I got my LLC right away, I kind of knew that. But just getting these things locked and loaded before getting to this point would have been more helpful. Because sometimes you feel like you know it all and you don't. And my uncle being my family member is kind of like, he's still my family at the end of the day. He's still my uncle. So I'm like, oh, you just want to tell me what to do, kind of thing. But getting kind of an outside perspective is helpful as well. So
that's super, super good advice. Yeah. And to your point earlier, Brian, you are in an environment right now, in a really a playground that you may not even acknowledge as such because of the rigors of your coursework, but this is an amazing place. So take absolutely
you look at the wall. When I was walking in here, it shows me the wall of all the logos of all the entrepreneurs that have come from UNH.
That's right.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I mean, that is like a networking
minefield
right there. I mean, you guys, and the people sitting next to you in this room and around you are eventually going to be in business, right? Yeah. I mean, I've got multiple friends of mine that we've connected. Again, this other friend of mine we started the barbershop with. He was a buddy of mine, and we ended up, networking. So you never know, like I said, where those opportunities are going to come from.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we do have some exciting news from CAPS, which is that we have just purchased an alumni networking platform that we will be putting online this spring. So we'll create that opportunity to network. For the first time, the university's had that, so we're excited for that. Well, thank you, and thank you very much, you two.
Can I just give you guys just a couple pointers, just a couple of thoughts just to go? I know we got to leave final things. I just had thought about before to leave you with is if you're going to go into business with somebody, like a partner, okay, find somebody that complements your skills, okay, doesn't duplicate it, okay, because what's going to happen is if you're both doing the same job, you're going to butt heads, you're going to undermine each other. But if you, like, for example, I'm an art major, right? I'm obviously not the guy running the finances and the books of my business. My business partner, he was an engineer. He likes numbers. I hate math. He loves math. So we were able to, coincide, separate our business. It's like a marriage. It literally is. It takes work. You got to compromise. So if you're going to go into business with somebody else, make sure you find somebody that you are symbiotic with. If you're going to hire employees in your business, hire somebody, and you may have heard this before, it might be cliche, hire somebody who's smarter than you in that area. Don't be afraid. One of the aspects or criticisms of entrepreneurs or small business people is they want control of everything. You got your hands in everything. I remember my moment when I finally was like, I need to let go, and I'm like anal retentive about certain stuff. Like I need to, that needs to be over here. You got to let it go. You're paying these people to do a job. let them do the job. You know, if you get, the goal is to get from A to B and they're going to go one way and it's not the way you're going to go, but you still got there, let it go and focus on the bigger picture and let the people that you're hiring do the work. And then I guess lastly would be, don't be afraid of risk. Don't be afraid. You know, you're going to be sitting here, you got everything, your analysis paralysis, you got your idea, you got your business plan, you got your thought, and then you're like, you know, you're on the diving board. It's like parenting, man. There's no good time to have a kid. You know, I want to save money, I want to do this, I want to have a perfect house. And then you just like, finally you just need to say, screw it, I'm going to have a kid. Screw it, I want to jump off the cliff and prepared my 80% of my business plan here, and you got to risk it. I mean, the worst case scenario is, maybe you fail, you know, but if you fail, you're going to learn a hell of a lot more for the next time around when you're going to do the next thing. So that's one big thing I think is huge. Don't live in fear of just taking control and doing your own business. I think it's great, and I feel that you guys are, you know, being here, listening to us, and being in this program, you're already taking the first steps.
Brian and Sam came here because they wanted to share about them and their experiences, and I gotta believe they're there for you if you want to continue these conversations.
Yep,
So
absolutely. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.